Welcome to the Cybersecurity Simplified podcast, where we take the mystery out of today's top security threats and solutions. Most business people think they know what cybersecurity is. Not only that, they think they have it. They have a false sense of cybersecurity that's putting their businesses at greater risk. In this premiere episode of Cybersecurity Simplified, we're going to tackle the foundational question: what is cybersecurity? And here's a hint: it's a practice, not a product. Well, I'm your host, Susanna Song, Director of Communications at Highwire Networks. And today, our guest is David Barton, Chief Technology Officer for Overwatch at Highwire Networks. David oversees Overwatch technology solution development and channel sales engineering teams. He comes with more than 20 years of cybersecurity experience with various industries, including telecommunications, healthcare, software development, government, mortgage, and finance. Welcome, David, to our show. How are you doing?
Thank you, Susanna. I'm good. I'm good. I'll try to live up to all of those the intro you gave me. At the end of the day, you're just reminding people that I'm old, and that's okay. I've been doing security for a long time, so I'm all right with that.
Yeah, and you're doing a great job. It's great to have you on our team and to have you as our first guest. Let's dive in. As I said in the intro, many people think they know what cybersecurity is, but they probably don't. Can you set the record straight?
Well, I'll try to. Um, it's interesting when I talk to people about what I do and I talk about cybersecurity. In most cases, I get the blank look, right? The deer in the headlight, because while I understand what it is and you understand what it is, they struggle with that idea. And then I break it down to the most fundamental, which is the bad guys want our data and they're doing everything they can to get to it. And so the practice of cybersecurity is protecting all of those assets that we use and we put into place to protect what's most important. In banking, it's financial records. In healthcare, it's HIPAA records, right? In the government, it's classified programs, right? There's lots of things that are um, the crown jewels for our customers, but they don't understand that what we do is we're monitoring and managing technology as a practice of preventing the disclosure of that data. So, I guess in a summary, cybersecurity is a practice whereby we're utilizing the best products we can with the best trained people that we can find, and putting processes in place so that we can make it repeatable.
Yeah, that's
Security is not a magic. There's nothing magic about it. It's a methodical process and procedure.
Yeah, that's interesting. You use 2 action verbs, monitoring and what was the other one?
Was it managing?
Managing. That's right. Those are not products. I think a lot of businesses and business leaders and owners assume they can buy a product and now they're, you know, abiding by cybersecurity rules and standards.
Agree. I talked to a longtime IT practitioner the other day, and I asked him, what are you doing for security? And he's like, well, we're really secure. We've got a firewall and we've got antivirus and we do content filtering. And I said, what else? He says, well, that's enough. And I said, well, if that were enough, why do we still have breaches? Right? Why are customers or and companies still getting compromised by bad guys who are after the data? So my argument is back to what you started with. It's still a process. It's still a practice, and we have to be better at practicing.
Is there a standard for cybersecurity, David?
There's been a lot of standards bodies who've tried. There's a couple out there that are pretty good to help give guidance. There's the NIST framework, which is one of the best, I think, in terms of categorizing risk and putting a program in place. There are standards around the technology and how you deploy it, and then there's standards around what's expected from the people who are practicing that security program. So there are some. I don't know that we've hit the maturity level we want yet, but we're getting better.
And what electronic resources does cybersecurity cover?
Electronic resources. Are you
Because
talking
it's not
about
just your computers, right? I think people assume, hey, like you said, I have a firewall and it's going to protect me or protect my network.
right? So I think the short answer is I don't know. There is a short answer. The longer answer is firewalls, content, protecting the data. Right? There's just just to give you a futures. There's companies out there that are building protection around files. They self protect. Right? That's the future of cybersecurity, I believe. But what those files do is if you don't have rights to those files, you can copy them, you can paste them, but you can't read them, you can't do anything with them. And so what we've done in the late 80s and the 90s was we built perimeters, right, around what we want to protect. We use the whole build a building, put doors on it, put locks on it, put cameras, put guards. We did that around cybersecurity. And what we found is we had to open doors to allow the data to get used, right? So we open a door, which allows the bad guy to come in, and that's not what we wanted. So we put new controls, and so we had a perimeter within a perimeter within a perimeter, and the bad guys were still getting in. And so what we are moving to is security as close to that crown jewel as we can get it. But I think the other thing to note is security is not a one tool solution, right? It's not even a tool solution, it's a business problem, right? Um, and you have to think through what am I trying to protect? Do I have the right tools in place? Do those tools talk to each other? How do I respond to the output of those tools? Because frankly, there's so much data, there's so much alert and event data that if I'm not looking for the right things, I'm going to miss it, right? So, again, security is a practice. It has to be something that you build a discipline around.
Yeah, and you mentioned that it's a business problem. So, would cybersecurity then cover what I consider the unpredictable factor, which are users? Because it's not, like you said, it's not just products, but it's a
No.
process.
So, I heard one of my colleagues say that if we didn't have users, we wouldn't need security. And
Hmm.
while I'm not quite ready to go that far, I do think that users are a contributing factor to insecure programs, right?
Mm.
And we as practitioners have to be better at educating our users, helping them understand that clicking on this link doesn't make sense because it looks funny, or I wasn't expecting an email from Susanna that had a big attachment, right? Or I found this USB device by my computer. I wonder what's on it, right? We have to be better than that. And so while I do think that uninformed users are part of the problem, the other half of that coin is the informed users who are trying to take advantage of weaknesses in our program.
Mm. So, how do you implement cybersecurity? Which is like the $1,000,000 question.
Well, I think A, it has to start at the top, right? You have to work in an organization that knows they need it, right? And they need to understand that what they've done up to this point is not enough. It has to have the buy in at the executive level, right? And then you have to build a framework that is repeatable. So if you think about security, we call it the onion, right? The onion has multiple layers. And so I've got different tools at different layers, but I'm building what we call defense in depth, right? So if I've got defense in depth, I've got tools that I might miss it over here with this tool, but over here I'm going to catch it with this tool. But if I don't have a program and a roadmap with like the NIST framework or something to that effect, I'm not going to build that program and the practice that's going to allow me to catch the bad guys if I'm not thinking about it holistically, right? And then I think finally you have to have the people in on your side. Right? You have to
Mhm.
spend time with them, coaching them, teaching them, helping them understand that, security. There was a slogan: "Security is not complete without you," and in the word security, the "you" was missing, right? And without you, without our customers, without our people, our program is going to fail.
Hmm. You say it starts with the leadership, with the people, with you. So are you saying businesses have to go out and hire a bunch of security experts? Like who sets that tone?
So I'd love to say the answer is yes. Um, but I can tell you there's a huge demand for security qualified people, and they don't exist. There's not many of them. But there's certainly not enough to fill the backlog um, in the open jobs. So I think there's a huge opportunity to build relationships with third parties who have environments and have infrastructure and have the people who are trained who can step in and be a complement to your internal team, where you may only have one or two security people, but then you've got a whole team that's outsourced 7 by 24, monitoring, managing, responding to security events.
And is that kind of the trend now, David? Are more businesses outsourcing and finding a reputable managed security service provider?
I think they have to, right?
Mhm.
Because, so let me back up. If they don't recognize they need security, then the answer is no. And those people are going to continue to get compromised and lose their data, right? But those who understand the business problem know that they can't find the people, right? They don't know what tools to use. They don't know how to staff it. Um, Building a 7 by 24 security operations center is a significant investment.
Oh,
So
absolutely. Yep.
they have to be prepared for that. And where they're not, you're seeing a lot of people flocking to those reputable third party managed security companies.
So, David, it seems like you are really encouraging business leaders to find a managed security service provider. So, where can our listeners get information?
Great question. So I think they start with the partnerships they have, right? They're going to have probably some outsourced IT company that's helping them. Um, there are consortiums of managed security companies out there where they can go to CompTIA and some of the other organizations and look for partners that would fit in their culture, right? Um, and then I think the other thing to do is go ask their friends, right? To talk to their colleagues and say, who are you using? The thing that I would always caution folks on is don't assume that because someone's at the top quadrant or on the top of the list that they're going to meet the cultural requirements that you have for your partner, right? Do some digging, ask the hard questions. Just because you're number 10 in the top 250 list doesn't mean you're good at responding, right? You may have a lot of revenue that's driving your number up there, but you're really not great at responding to a denial of service. So I think as our listeners are looking for those partners, ask the hard questions, right? What do you do? Where's your staff located? Are you US based? Are you using open source tools? Are they do they have a methodology around notification? Is there automation? There's a lot of questions that I think you have to ask, but starting with your trusted partners, hitting some of the trade websites around managed security, ask the right questions, and then ultimately, do the trial, right? Do a POC. Let them prove that they can work in your environment and deliver some results.
All very good answers, David. Thank you. And I think all of our listeners definitely learned that cybersecurity is not a product, it's a practice, it's a process, and it's the people. And one of the best recommendations, David, that you gave us today is to find a managed security partner who you trust, who is aligned with where your business is at, values, and resources and, believes in education. So thank you so much, David. And thank
My
you to our
pleasure.
listeners for joining us. If you have feedback for today's episode or you have any questions for David or myself, feel free to contact us here or email us at marketing@highwirenetworks.com. And be sure to join us for our next episode. What is a security operations center and why do I need one? Until next time, I'm Susanna Song, and this is Cybersecurity Simplified. From all of us here at Overwatch by Highwire Networks, thank you for listening. We'll catch you next time on the Cybersecurity Simplified podcast. To learn more, visit us at highwirenetworks.com/podcast.